Welcome to the Novel Universe with your hostesses Ashley and Dawn. We rate and review the newest and most buzzworthy books. We are true book club girls who don't always agree but do enjoy a good book discussion. I'm Ashley, the fantasy architect.
And I'm Dawn, the criticizer of books.
Grab your favorite beverage and come and enjoy our universe.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Novel Universe with your hostesses, Ashley and Dawn. And today we are going to be talking about The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. And as you guys know, Dawn and I are huge Bardugo fans. And of course, anything written by her, we are absolutely going to read. So if this is your first time tuning into our podcast, how we have it set up is that we kind of do a non-spoiler review, and then we do a spoiler review and kind of just give our little nitpicks on things that we really wanted to talk about. Dawn and I do not discuss the book beforehand, so all of our interactions that you will hear are live and true and our firstborn thoughts, if you will. So without further ado, this is Leigh Bardugo's book, The Familiar. In a shabby house on a shabby street in the new capital of Madrid, Lucia uses scraps of magic to get through her days of endless toil as a scullion maid. But when her scheming mistress discovers that the lump of a servant cowering in the kitchen is actually hiding a hidden talent, she demands Lucia to use those gifts to better the family's position. What starts as a simple amusement for the bored nobility takes a perilous turn when Lucia garners the notice of Antonio Perez, the disgraced secretary of to Spain's king. Still reeling from the defect of his armada, the king is desperate for any advantage in the war against England's heretic queen, and Perez will stop at nothing to regain the king's favor. So this book is set in Madrid during the Spanish Inquisition, which, if any of you don't know, the Spanish Inquisition was a mass execution of Jews and Muslims, and it's during the time of Spain's Armada's fall to England. So basically, if you were not Catholic, you were going out. So this is basically what the premise of that book is about. So, Dawn, what did you rate The Familiar?
So this is a low score for me as far as a Bardugo book. I did give it a 4, but I can be persuaded to go higher depending on our discussion today. So we'll see.
Okay. I also gave this book a 4, which shocking, I know, because I feel like sometimes I'm a little bit more gracious with my star ratings, but there was just, there's a few things I was like, I don't know for me. In which I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that, because again, I think us having our book discussions, will either persuade the other or the other one is on their island and they're going down whether you like it or not. So, Dawn, what did you not like about this book?
I only really one dislike, and it's really a me problem, not so much the book's problem. I thought this book was about vampires when I first picked it up. I am shocked that other people thought that too, because I didn't know where I had got that from.
Is it the cover? Do you think it's the cover? Because it's morally gray cover and there's a scorpion and I don't know.
Do vampires have familiars?
Oh,
Or that's witches. Witches have familiars. Yeah.
I don't know, but I kind of got it from the tone, the skin color tone of the hand.
Okay.
Maybe that was my thing, is that they look dead.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Well, so I did not know it was historical fiction because I don't read synopses or anything. It was just, this is Leigh Bardugo's new book. I'm going to read it. I don't care what it's about. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, this is historical fiction. Okay. And then there's a point in the book where it could go the historical fiction route or it could go the fantasy route. I was hoping for the fantasy route and I did not get that. And it kind of affected my rating. Sorry.
I think I agree with you. So I did not know what to expect either when I picked this book up And again, I try not to read synopses because sometimes they ruin it. I think there's been a few books that we've read recently that I'm like, if you read the synopsis, like you've basically just learned the whole entire book. So I'm trying to like go into books like fully unaware as to what I'm going to get. But usually in good Bardugo fashion, there is some history sprinkled in, there's fantasy sprinkled in, sort of kind of. So I'm like, it's got to be something along those lines. But the main thing for me that I struggle with is that this book was hard to get into because of what you described. I wasn't sure if I was getting a historical fiction book or if I was getting a fantasy book. Like, because there's a lot of backstory that is about the Spanish Inquisition. It's kind of slow to start. For me, I had like an issue with that. But once you got like past like where she makes that pivot, I think it starts to become a little bit of an easier read. But my biggest thing that I struggle with is, as you know, Ashley's fantasy architect. I love world building. But I wanted to know more about not the Spanish. No thanks, but I want to know more about the magic system. The magic system didn't quite have a lot of rules. Like it did and it didn't, and it was kind of an off point for me because I was expecting a little bit more because of the fact that we were towing that line between like historical fiction and fantasy. So I didn't really know, like, am I supposed to be focusing more on the historical fiction or if I'm supposed to be focusing more on the magic system within the fantasy. So yeah. Like she gives rules, right? Like we have rules. I get it. There's a point in the book where Lucia tries to turn like gold coins and turn something into gold coins and they turn into spiders. So I'm like, okay, well obviously you can't have wealth, like you can't use your magic to give you wealth. But yet there's other things that happen within the book that almost counteracts that statement. Which we can talk about later, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I couldn't quite give it a 5. Like I liked it, but would I pick it up to read it again?
maybe.
Maybe. So that's where my brain is struggling with like when I give a 5-star, like Ashley's rereading that book again. I'm a big fan of
Oh,
rereads.
yeah, I'm not a reader.
I am. Sign me up. I'm a rereader, like especially if I need like emotional support in my life.
As
So
far as I put the magic system in the light category for me,
yeah.
because it was described as miracles,
Mhm.
not as magic, which has a religious connotation to it. And so, because this is Catholicism, I kind of equated that to if they are Catholic and Spanish, then they could just say, well, my miracles come from angels and I speak to angels, and then they're okay. Like,
Mhm.
the king, they're in favor of the king and everything. But if they're Jewish, like Lucia, then it's bad. It's the devil. It's not good. It's like they can kind of decide if you are a good person or a bad person
Mhm.
anytime they do, like the Inquisition. They just decide if
Okay.
you're a witch or if you're in God's favor or whatever. So I'm assuming she did that on purpose because she has done magic before
Mhm.
and she knows how to do rules and everything. She did Shadow and Bone. I felt like that
Yeah.
had a solid system to it. So there must have been a reason why she didn't really have it wasn't really focused on the magic so
Uh-huh.
much. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, and I think too, like maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed that point of, like if you're doing, there's a difference between like being God blessed and being like of the devil, like with your magic, right? Like, which is kind of what they talked about within the book. But I think it was just confusing for me because I was so stuck on like the historical part of it that I was like, am I supposed to be focusing on like the Spanish Inquisition? Like with what's happening here? Like, or is it just because she has some form of magic, like she's already deemed a witch, right? We're burning at the stake, we're doing this drowning, like we're doing all this crazy um stuff to people that aren't like us. So yeah, I don't
I
know.
saw it more as she's using um anti-Semitism as a
Mm-hmm.
metaphor for this band for magic. It's like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
It's it's like she's Jewish and they were just like executing Jewish people and Muslims and everything, but she has magic.
Yeah.
Instead of, I don't know. I don't know how to say it, but I just kind of saw it more as a metaphor, and
Mm-hmm.
her kind of tied up into all of that. And I kind of saw the whole book as kind of a metaphor.
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, because I know that like the book in and of itself, it does a great job of explaining how marginalized people were targeted by like the empirical efforts that were like going on. Like it does a really good job of doing that. So maybe that's what our focus was supposed to be on, not necessarily the magic. But because I read so much fantasy, I'm here for it. Like I want the whole thing. I want to know what everyone can do and how they can do it.
Yeah,
And all that stuff. So again, it might just be a me problem, which we talked about. I don't really have any nitpicks or anything like that. I think other than like for me, it was I think I would recommend like if you're gonna sit and you're gonna read this book, just trust the process. Like that's what I want to say. Like just trust the process to that it does have a slower start. Just keep going.
yeah.
Don't get hung up on it. Um, so yeah. All right, let's go into our likes. What did you like about this book?
I liked that how we're talking about it now. Like everybody's going to get something different out of it.
Mhm.
Some people are going to see the fantasy aspect more. Some people are going to really latch on to the historical fiction. Some people are going to latch on to the romance. And I like that it could be something different for everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really liked the fact that this book was, um, again, like Bardugo is just, she's just a genius when she writes. Like if no one has read like Hellbent, okay, like it is set, you know, in such a place that like it's a real tangible place. Like Leigh Bardugo does a great job of using like real life events and things that are important to her to write her books. And it shows up in just like every aspect. So again, the writing is amazing as always. Like I have like a ton of quotes written down just because she just does such a great job with that. Um, and the themes of this book. Again, Dawn and I like good themes. We like having good discussions about stuff like that, you know, and there's a theme of greed, there's a theme of loneliness, and would you say feminism as well? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, because a lot of like the women are all like, how would you say? Like they're all like on their own pathways, and it's all about like how they're going to succeed in the life that's ruled by men,
Hmm.
you know? And like you have Lucia, like she has been basically, she only has her aunt left over. Her aunt is a slave, not a slave, but she's like a concubine, if you will, to this very leading man. And she does it so that way she can continue her status. And but she has this um hidden agenda, right? Like she's going to leave when she has enough gold, when she's done enough things and secured her position, she's out of there. And so with her whole talks that she has with Lucia, it's very interesting to see how she almost like warps Lucia's mind into like, yes, it doesn't make sense. Um, does it seem logical? No. Am I doing it because of this? Yes. And Lucia's like, I don't want to do that, which is very interesting because she's a scullion maid, you know? She's at the lowest of the low. She's
Hmm.
sleeping on the floor. She's working for a family that's not necessarily the best. Um, so yeah, it's just interesting because at the end of the book, each of the women that we are reading about all kind of meet their own end in a way, and it's not necessarily happy.
Yeah. Even Valentina, who is that's Lucia's matron, she works for her. Like in the beginning, she's just this horrible person, but at the same time, she's sympathetic. So we do get a backstory from her and how she just had to marry this man because, and it's a loveless marriage, and she can't have any children, and she she sees Lucia as a way to get some status. She's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, more miracles. This is my opportunity to get invited into parties and, you know, the the people who have the haves, because she doesn't have much. But instead of Bardugo kind of keeping her as the bitch, she grows and she becomes, I don't want to say too much, but she's not a a flat character.
No.
Like
Yeah.
she's a woman and she has her own lot in this life that she is living, and she gets brought down a couple of pegs. And I don't know, I every woman in this book, I think, has her own story, and it is written very well.
Yes. I think I would agree with you. Um, Another part that I really liked about this book, so like again, like Lucia is being picked out basically to be entertainment to the king, like, and there's a whole other hidden agenda that's going on between like her trainer and Victor de Paredes and like all this other stuff, right? And they have trials to be chosen as the best of the best. I love that the book was not solely based on the trials. Like I wasn't just sitting for 300 pages in these unannounced trials. Like, thank you. That part
Yeah.
I really liked, because sometimes that timeline just gets so mundane. You lose interest. Like, are they gonna make it? Like, or we say too much. I feel like some authors do like that, and it's just like, okay, at this point in time, I don't care who wins.
I know, when I read that there was going to be trials, I was like, oh my God. I
Yep.
thought we were done with this Hunger Games trial bullshit, but it didn't do that. And I was so grateful.
Yeah.
So great.
Because it wasn't even like the biggest scenes within the book wasn't the trials. It was other things, which I loved that because it was kind of like an offset, right? I like
Yeah.
that. What about you? Anything else that you really liked?
I liked Lucia. Once again, she's the main character.
Mhm.
At the beginning of the book, she's just trying to be invisible. She doesn't want people to notice her. She's plain. She's a virgin. She's illiterate. She has nothing going for her. Like you said, she's an orphan, even though
Mhm.
but she has been orphaned for a while. And then when she meets Santango, how do you say it? Santago?
Santan Hill.
Santanhill, um, he's there to help her bring out her miracles or her
Mhm.
magic. And he tells her to like fear men, and at some point she starts to like that they fear her.
Mhm.
And so she grows a little bit. And I don't know, I just liked everything about her. I thought she was funny and she was very smart.
Mhm.
Um, stood up for herself. Like,
Mhm.
she was a good character.
Yeah, she was written really well, and I appreciated that because I mean, like, she's a badass in and of herself, right? She doesn't need anybody, but she does need a shove in the direction to know how to speak her voice, and I think Santan Hill does a really good job of shoving her that way and basically telling her, like, don't bow to anybody. Like, you are powerful. Use your power. Don't be afraid of it just because of where we're at, where like men basically held the power. In the whole entire book, you see how men hold all of the power and how these women are oppressed in their own ways. Um, and so of course he just shoves her in the correct direction. And Santan Hill is our, morally gray man. He's spooky. Like, I love him. I loved him so much. There were so many beautiful quotes that he says to her within the book. Um, and you learn about his story and what happened to him and how he has gotten to where he is. And it's just like, there's a quote in the book where he talks about, I would choose 1,000 lifetimes to just like braid your or brush your hair. And I'm like, my husband's ever said, like, I would choose 1,000 lifetimes to brush your hair for you. What? Like, it just makes you go, swoon. Okay, sounds great. You're a soul. But he's scary. He's so
Yeah.
scary. He's known as the Scorpion within the book, and he's a slave in and of himself, but we see his growth and his development. And there's a quote too that I think Lucia says, because again, this book is very quotable, which is Santanhill would do what he must, and if he was a beast, let him be a beast without a cage. Sum them up. Sounds great. I love it. Sign me up.
Yeah. She did love him unconditionally, and it was a quick love. I've listened to some reviews and people were like, it's insta love, and I'm like, I don't think so. I think they found something in each other,
Mm-hmm.
and they respected each other, and they didn't have much going on. It's
Yeah.
not like my life is fabulous, let me take my time. This is not a great time period that they're living in.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think it was insta love. And one thing that Bardugo does well is romance. And it's not spicy or anything. It could just
Mm-hmm.
be like you just said, just saying something to her, or the way she feels about him. I can't remember. It was a quote, something about she when she's with him or sees him, it's like she drank wine. She felt lightheaded. It was something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she just writes romance so beautiful. She's so good at it.
She is good. And then I think there's another line too where I think he like tells it to her like you remind my heart to beat. And I'm
Yeah.
like just it's good. It's all great. I don't think it was insta love either. I think I would agree with you there. It was, they're finding a commonality within like their terrible situation, right? And it's like if you were in a situation like them where people are literally being massacred, right, for them not being Catholic, um, they're seizing every moment. They're seizing every moment that they possibly can instead of going like, once we get out of this, I'll marry you. Once we get out of this, I promise we'll do all these things. And it's like, no, like there's this idea that you have to die to live again, basically. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
that's deep, man. And I loved there was no communication barrier trope. Thank God for
Yeah.
that. Like, that drives me nuts in books. It really does. Because it's like, I'm all about like an enemies to lovers type of trope. That's probably one of my favorites, but write it well. And let's not use the cop out of like, well, she said this, so therefore she means this. Or they never told me that. There was like an unknown, like she trusted him fully and he trusted her fully. And if she didn't know, she called him out on it. And he goes, okay, well, I'm not gonna lie to you. This is what's going on.
Yeah,
Like,
and she knew that he was using her
yeah.
to get out of his situation.
Hmm.
Up front, she knew it. And like you said, no miscommunication. It was all there. None of that, oh, how could you do this to me? I hate you. None of that bullshit. None of
No,
that.
no. Which is, I think, why like shipping them together, I was okay with because of the fact that like they're like, no, I've done that. I've lived X amount of years. You've only lived this many years. But she knew what she wanted, you know?
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't a stupid scullion maid, which I liked a lot. Do you have anything else that you liked about this book?
Just the writing style. I think we kind of talked about it. Um, Bardugo, every book she writes, she grows with her writing. This book, I think, probably had the best quotes I've read from her. Just some of the best, just like, I don't know if I want to call it beautiful writing. Like, she's not a V. Schwab lyrical writer or anything like that, but just the way she writes her women and how honest they are and they say what they want. And
Mm-hmm.
the romantic writing, just some of the beautiful things that they say to each other. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I feel like her writing has gotten even better since Ninth House.
Oh, I agree. And even Ninth House was like, you know, what was that one book we just read? Rebecca Ross, like how that book was like so eloquently written and you just wanted to sit in the writing. Like that's how I felt with a lot of the quotes that were in this book too. Um, yeah, she just did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great job there. But we're curious to know your guys' thoughts on if you are going to read it, or if you liked it, or if you didn't like it. Did you think it was about vampires like we did? Because I did. We are going to spoil the next book for you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I still can't get that countdown with my hand, by the way.
So
No, it's it's done. It's fine. Dawn's been trying to teach me for years, but I still can't do it.
the Rhythm Nation Janet Jackson countdown with her hand at the beginning of the music video.
It's not my expertise. Oh, right. Well, what would you like to spoil first?
Well, okay, so I just want to clarify what I was saying about my dislike and how, so I feel bad for saying this, but I kind of, after the trials, I wanted there to be declared a winner and I wanted her to go to the king. Like, I didn't want to go to the Spanish Inquisition. Sorry. I didn't want to go to prison.
I know. Dude, she gets tortured. She gets
Yeah.
freaking tortured. And some of them are like so delusional that are in there. But again, did you notice too that they're women? They're
Mhm.
all women that are in the, what is it? The torture chamber that are just
Mhm.
waiting to be tortured. And I found that interesting because again, it goes in line with like men hold all the power in this book. If you're a man, like you have more persuasion in the world, you have more clout, like all the stuff. And I'm like, no, they're all dead. Like, what? Like that was scary. Super scary. But I
Yeah.
loved to, so like, we learn about Santan Hill, like in his story, how he tells it about like was he the king at the time or his best friend at the time?
He was the best friend of Victor's ancestors.
Yeah. And they talk about that and how basically his power is only there to elevate Victor's family line. And like that's why they have so much luck in the world. But he's basically doing all of his dirty work always, and it's killing his soul. That's also another thing that I noticed too, is that like he never once was a thriving individual in like when he was talking about when he became of his power, right, with Victor. He wasn't ever like thriving and alive. He was always this dead, decrepit person. And when Lucia meets him for the first time, she's even like, this man is sickly. He's hunched over. He's gray, white, silvery hair. Like life has been stripped out of him, which to me, wouldn't that be like the cost of magic, right? The cost of magic is your soul.
Yeah.
Um, so that was really interesting, but it wasn't until he meets Lucia that he starts to feed off of her magic, and starts to feed off of her power. Because he kind of touches on it a lot where, he used to sleep around and do all these things and didn't really care and blah 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 blah, but it's like they never once talked about him thriving like he was with her. So I don't know. I wonder if like her magic had like a certain like well it does though, because at the end she has the power to do things that you didn't even know about until
Yeah.
there. Um so yeah. What did you think about Valentina and like her basic like FU to Marcus, right? Marius,
Mhm.
whatever his name is. Because she's like alone, she's barren. Her husband she knows is sleeping around and doing whatever, and she's just in this loveless marriage. And then all of a sudden they have like what that little weekend where they're finally like you see them together as a married couple, but she just goes,
That
no.
was because of for some reason, Lucia and I can't say it.
Santan Hill.
Santan, they were together, and their love did things to other people, which was weird. I was like, okay, I don't know what to make of this, but sure, I'll go with it.
Yeah. Or the theme of like what, oranges and pomegranates.
Yeah.
Onto that. I'm
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah. Granites are in the Bible a lot, and
Yep.
on what it meant. I don't have it on me, but it meant something. That's the thing Bardugo does. She does a lot of symbols, like the scorpion is a symbol of like a lot of, if you really pick apart her book, you can find some stuff.
Right. Right. Um, so I looked up about like oranges, right? It's from Gary Soto's like poem, like oranges or whatever. The poet reminds us that the recollection of an innocent first love can warm the heart and burn bright in one's memory about oranges. Which I'm
Okay.
like, okay, because they talk about that a lot, like the scent of oranges in the room
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. So I'm like, okay, okay. I'm here for it. Youth, happiness, memories, like all good things. Um, but I really did like that at the end of the book that Valentina basically like leaves her man, never has her own kids, but has many lovers, and basically takes in like lost women or women
Mm-hmm.
who are in need of a mother. And it's like we see Valentina's growth even with Lucia and how like she's taking care of Lucia when she is like being chosen to be the champion, or and through the trials and how, they have like this really, really good talk about her status and her asking Lucia, did you ever use your magic to make me barren? And women just being honest with women, which I loved that. Like there was no like, I'm going to use you for my own betterment with the women in this story. They
Yeah.
all kind of sided together, which I loved. Um, and I loved her aunt.
Oh my God. When she died, I was like, oh no. That was so sad.
It was so sad. But the jade or whatever that was like in her clothes like made someone else, another
Yeah.
woman, prosperous. And I'm like, okay, I see you. That was good. But it was so sad because this woman just wanted to get out from underneath, Deep Predator's like his thumb, and get out of that. And she basically at the end gets outsmarted, but she does her last like fu where she takes the guy that's supposed to kill her with her.
Yeah.
So I love that. What'd you think of the ending?
I thought it was very, I wasn't sure how they were going to get out of it. It was foreshadowed that she could teleport basically. And there was the certain phrase that she said that could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was a beautiful ending.
I did too.
Their little last paragraph, and how she has to bring him back every day, and they just travel the world together. I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful.
How he
Oh,
dies every day, but she like
yeah.
reminds his heart to beat again, and like that theme of still doing that even when he dies again and again and again, like every night. It's just like, but yeah, I loved it because I didn't know how she was going to end it. And I was like, are they all going to die? Is everyone dying in this book? Like, it's just going to be one sad, sappy story. But they do die, but they have to fake their death in a way and teleport somewhere else and just to
Yeah.
continue to do that. So I do love that. I loved it. I thought it was great. Is there anything else that you have on it at all?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you guys
I,
so much. Sorry.
I could probably bump it up to a 4.25. I think I can bump it up.
Yeah, maybe. I might have to because I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll probably have to bump it up too. It's fine. Final rating is 4.25.
4.25.
Oh man. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we hope to catch you in the next podcast.
Bye-bye.